welcome, magical ones, to the mysterious feminine archetypes of the witch, where I'm showing up to explore the various different archetypes that show up in the life cycle of the feminine. And this is something that has been deeply missed in our culture, that would have been honoured deeply by our ancestors in the past. And today we're exploring Mother and the mother energy, which is that kind of very in terms of, I've likened this to the life cycles before, the kind of seasonal cycles, if you like, of life. So Mother is kind of the next phase on from Lover. We're moving from, we've had Maiden and Spring, Lover and Summer. We're kind of end of summer, kind of moving into autumn with the Mother. There's this kind of sense of her being this kind of wild element of her. There's a couple of elements, there's quite a lot of different aspects to the Mother, so I'm kind of picking out the ones that are really deeply relevant to the secret witches who'll be listening to this, women who don't maybe know their power and magic and want to really harness the mother's energy, so that they can really begin to see like where they have locked away this archetypal energy within them, in the lack of initiation into the mother that is so kind of part of our culture. We often as women move through these archetypal life cycles of maiden, lover, mother, wise woman and queen, kind of like without knowing, without even witnessing that there is a power to be reclaimed in each of them. And so this is the importance of our deep dive today and in the other weeks that we've been exploring these. So we're on Mother right now, and Mother, I'm kind of wearing a dress that feels very much Mother archetype. I've tried to dress archetypally as I record all of these, and particularly the Mother for me feels that kind of very unconditional loving. So she's wild, but she's also this kind of deep, kind of nurturing unconditional love, and this kind of blue dress reminds me of that nurturing, unconditionally loving energy that is so powerful to reclaim within the Mother archetype of the witch. And there's also a big part of the Mother is this kind of capacity to birth, and that doesn't necessarily mean our capacity to birth children. This is, the Mother is kind of involved in all of the birthing projects that we have. So when we're creating as women, we're creating from our hearts, our womb space, and really allowing, it's a very different kind of process of birthing. I was chatting to this with one of my one-to-one clients actually about how often in even just birthing a business, we can often kind of think of business as this masculine way of creating, this kind of pushing, forcing, we're going to launch a business. In the feminine, this very much comes from the motherly energy, this birthing of something that you have been growing, nurturing, loving, birthing it, releasing it into the world. It's not something to be rushed. The Mother takes her time. She's really deeply in tune with her wild instincts and her, and really deeply unconditionally loving and nurturing, both during the kind of growing of the project, of the child, whatever it is that we're getting ready to birth, and of course nurturing and devoting to it afterwards as well, after it's been birthed. So this is, the Mother is ultimately the ultimate creatrix. She is the one who births things into form. We cannot create without her energy. So there's this kind of wild instinct following, this nurturing, this growth, this devotion, and this unconditional love. And abundance. And the secret witch often will struggle with this Mother archetype. It's something I've realized that is deeply embedded in all of the work that we do, because unconditional love is something that is really just so critical to this path of soul. So the Mother's energy is right the way woven through this path, this kind of deeply unconditional love that often secret witches have not had an experience of. I know for me, I had struggled to really know that unconditional love. And often that leaves us in this kind of sense that love is conditional, that there will be something that we have to give up in order to, really receive love. And so this can often leave women in that kind of approval shadow, where they will often ignore their wild instincts, they will ignore their own needs, they will not be loving to themselves. And this can leave them very much, it's still in that kind of almost back into the maiden phase of life, where they're looking for approval rather than just being and knowing that there is unconditional love. And so the work here is to begin to offer that to ourselves. The mother is all about, first and foremost, beginning to nurture and love ourselves unconditionally, so that we can then be able to love and nurture whatever it is we want to birth, and the other people in our lives. So this is something that often shows up in this kind of polarity with the mother, as either if there's if this is the mother in shadow, this is the archetypal mother wounding. Often the polarity can be either the mother will show up as this kind of smothering love, this kind of rescuing everybody, like making sure she's approved of, this over loving. And I certainly witness this for myself as well at times, as I become more conscious and aware of that. But the other end of the scale, there can be this kind of cold mother, this kind of rejection of everything that she's been birthing, of this kind of I don't want to say hate, but this kind of coldness that often will kind of swing between the two poles, because there's this sense of having to give everything to the point where we are empty in the mother who's wounded. So often there's that kind of, again, tending to everybody else's needs, like over mothering, which leaves us empty, and then we will swing into that coldness, that detachedness, like that I've had enough, I can't give any more, is often the way that the mother wounding, the kind of lack of initiation into the mother, will present itself in the Secret Witch. And again, this can show up in other ways. This can show up in physical symptoms. It can show up in painful periods. It can show up in traumatic births that the wounded mother may have experienced, the Secret Witch may experience really traumatic, difficult births. And this could be a sign that she has not yet reached the kind of invoked her mother archetype. And again, kind of other areas like miscarriages, again, these are all things that I have experienced myself. This kind of, these are all symptoms of our lack of initiation into the mother. And it's a real deep call for unconditional love. Other ways are kind of like, often secret witches will experience some wounding, some trauma, some stories that have been created around their own kind of mother wounding that they have experienced. This work, as we embody the mother, is really deeply healing all of our ancestral wounds, where patterns have been passed through these kind of through our families, through our from our ancestors through to now. So this work of embodying the mother is really, really healing all of those mother wounds with unconditional love, so that we then stop passing them forward as well, so that we can kind of alchemize all of this to allow ourselves to be the fullest expression of the mother we were here to be, whether that is to children, whether that is to our creative projects. How else does it show up? So there's we talked about lack of honouring our own needs. That kind of lack of self-mothering, first and foremost, is the deepest part of the work that we do here, in order that we can come to a place where we are meeting our own needs, we are mothering ourselves, and then our cup is full in order to honour, nurture all the other creative projects that we have birthed, that we want to birth. Yeah, and often there's also this real doubt of power if there isn't this kind of archetypal healing with the mother archetype. So my own initiation actually is a great example of that. We talked about wildness. I had a very traumatic birth in which I hadn't prior to that really accepted myself as having the label of wild. I know for sure that I would have these wild emotional outbursts, and probably my family would see those, but there wasn't ever really an acceptance or an honouring of the wild instinctive parts of me that really wanted to be honoured, and so they were suppressed and ignored, and then they all came out in this traumatic birth, in which was really this kind of deep portal into the reclamation of soul. So the mother archetype is a particularly powerful one for me. Often my women will also feel that that kind of portal of birth has been this powerful portal of transformation for them, which is calling them into this work that we do here, calling them deeper into the path of soul. And that was certainly the case for me. It was something that really deeply made me realise my own power. So that kind of portal into motherhood via that blood mystery of birth really was what initiated me into my power. So the mother archetype is so deeply ingrained and so deeply powerful in the work that I do with my secret witches. And then other ways that that I've also kind of worked with the mother archetype is just this kind of devotion to unconditional love that is, again, filtered throughout my entire business. And I hadn't realised that until I really sat down and started to think about like how the mother archetype, how I'd worked with her in order to create everything really. And yeah, I think that kind of deep healing with feminine wounding, with my father wounding as well. I had a lot of stories there that needed love. And I've also learned to cook, which may not sound huge, but I completely avoided cooking. There was a real sense of the mother archetype calling me to provide nurture for my family, which is something that I hadn't really felt called to before. And yeah, just the biggest thing for me is really that deep unconditional love, which I hadn't really seen was available. Often the secret witch will have this story that she can either have love or she can have something else. And for me, one of my stories was you can either have love or truth. And so that kind of working with the mother to see that everything is welcome, all is welcome, everything is love. There are no conditions to the love that we can provide for ourselves if we're not able to receive that unconditional love externally. And yeah, really seeing that is so freeing for my women in terms of them expressing their fullness. That kind of self-nurture, self-love is such a powerful energy to be able to harness, and that comes from the mother. And so yeah, I think I'm going to leave that there. Other than to just add that it kind of is totally understandable, because if we think about the witch wound, the witch was burned at the stake for being who she was. So her capacity to nurture and mother and love those parts of herself was not available. She was going to be burned. If she was unconditionally loving for herself and allowed her full expression, she was going to be burned at the stake. So it's completely innocent. And still, we no longer live in those times. So the mother is here for you to be able to harness, to begin to really deeply love and like approve of yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of power in the mother archetype that yeah, is really juicy. So yeah, witnessing for an inquiry, just if this is feeling kind of, if you're being called here to go into deeper inquiry, just begin to witness where you resonate with the mother archetype in terms of her full embodied unconditionally loving, nurturing way of being, versus where you are in terms of the secret witch wounding. Like how does she show up for you in terms of the wounded mother? And that will be really powerful to just begin to illuminate and notice where the mother is calling you into that initiation to go deeper into the mother energy. And yeah, if you are interested to go even deeper, this is what we're going to be exploring in Invoke Your Feminine Mystery, which begins at the end of June. And yeah, it's we're going to be working through the whole life cycle to initiate and embody all of these archetypal lenses, these archetypal aspects of the feminine witch. So if that is something that is calling you, do reach out. She is the mother archetype is so deeply healing. So yeah, reach out and we can explore an alchemy call. I'm holding alchemy calls at the moment, so if you would like to, then I will drop the links in the comments below. Yeah, other than that, I will leave it there. All my love.